You are listening to the Marc Guzman Podcast Experience. Welcome to another episode of Ask Marc Anything. Let's get into the questions. We've got some really good questions. So let's jump into it.
All right, so the first one, this is one that came up during the AMA briefly the other day, not the AMA, real highest and best the other day. What was your reaction to New York-based Compass Real Estate purchase of Pacific Union International here in San Francisco?
So Pacific Union is a pretty large company, and Compass is an even larger company, and they're buying up everything that they can get their hands on. They're backed by I don't know how many millions of dollars worth of venture funds, and so there's a lot of investors investing in Compass, and Compass is going out. They're buying the top brokerages. They're buying the top agents, bringing them to their team, to their company, and they're making some big moves. I think in real estate, there's really two different types of companies. You're going to have companies like Compass that are really trying to grow and take as much market share from everyone else, and then you have your smaller mom and pop brokerages that focus more on, like boutique brokerages that focus really on giving the client a much better experience. Compass is probably focused on giving the agent the tools to go out and sell properties. And so I think it's a interesting move. I think it's going to be, but you know, the one thing that really confuses me is companies like Compass, and there's a few others out there that are going around buying brokerages, and I understand why they're growing the market share, investors, etc. But what's going to be very interesting to see is how they compete against virtual brokers. Virtual brokerages are very cheap, cost efficient for both the broker and the real estate agent. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens, and especially now that Keller Williams announced that they're going to start launching their own versions of virtual brokerages. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens to the industry as a whole, because if Compass is spending a ton of money buying brokerages, but then the trend starts going more toward virtual because it's very cost effective, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of returns they can bring back for their investors.
All right. The next question is, how might construction of a new ballpark for the A's impact land and housing prices in Oakland?
So,
well, first off, the two main sites that are being discussed currently are Howard Terminal and the Coliseum site. Those are the two most likely sites right now.
Okay. I think, well, something funny happens when you have like a big stadium come into play. You want the stadium close enough to the city or to the main demographic that's going to want that stadium in place. So you want the stadium as close as possible, easy access for people to get to. But there's a certain point where it gets too close and it can actually hurt the value of properties surrounding the area. That can come down to really just a lot of traffic and issues that stadiums cause. Public transportation, you know, if you have great public transportation in a neighborhood or in a city, and then the stadium comes into play and now it's clogging up public transportation, that becomes an issue. Now, there's obviously already a stadium in place right now, but with a potential new site, I mean, it depends on what neighborhood you're talking about and how it can be affected. I think if you're a neighborhood, if it gets built right next to a neighborhood, that neighborhood most likely will suffer in some way due to traffic and public transportation. That's for sure. Now, how much the values are going to be hit by that, it's really hard to say, because here in the Bay Area, it's a unique situation that we have a really high demand for housing and a pretty little amount of inventory supply. So you still see prices, holding up fairly strong. Now, there has been an increase in supply recently, but we're going to see if this is a speed bump or if it could be a market shift into a potential market correction. But I think a stadium in general, if it's too close to a neighborhood, you're going to have prices affected by it just due to extra traffic and clogging up public transportation.
All right. And then the last question is, when it comes to home repairs, what repairs are the tenants responsible for, and which repairs are the landlords responsible for?
Okay, so this is it can be pretty straightforward, but sometimes it can be a little fun situation to deal with. So with repairs, so when you rent out a property, you're renting out the property with a certain expected warranty of habitability to the tenant. So the tenant rents the property. You as a landlord are required to keep the property in a condition to where the tenant can use the property the way it's expected. So with that said, there's not going to be many repairs that a tenant is responsible for. It's really up to the landlord to keep up the property. Now, if the tenant causes damages to the property, then the tenant is responsible for paying for those damages. They can be held responsible even if they don't report certain maintenance items. So, perfect example is, let's say the refrigerator has a water line. The water line begins to leak. Tenant notices the leak, but they fail to report it for a month. And this leak continues to cause damage and damage and damage to the walls. Well, now the owner finds out and they have to rip out the entire kitchen. Well, because of failure from the tenant to report that maintenance item, the owner would have to go through legal procedures, but they could to then place some or all the repair costs on the tenant for failure to report maintenance items. So it's very important for tenants to report maintenance items right away. I always recommend to do it by text, by email, or do it through an online portal that the owner or property manager may have. That way you have proof that you've reported a maintenance item to the landlord or management company. But, I mean, another example would be if the tenant breaks window blinds, if they make a hole in the wall. Certain repairs like that, the tenant is responsible for fixing it, or it will be deducted from the security deposit because those are damages above and beyond normal wear and tear. But for a landlord, if there's bugs, it could be bed bugs, it could be roaches, it could be ants, rats, mice, that's considered infestation. That is a landlord responsibility. Plumbing leaks that just randomly happen, owner has to fix that. Non-working lights, non-working heat, non-working appliances that came with the property, that has to be fixed by the landlord. So, I mean, it really kind of depends, but for the most part, most repairs are going to be the landlord responsibility.
All right, sounds good.
That's it?
Yeah.
3 questions. So thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, iHeartRadio, or Spotify. You can also watch the vidcast versions on Facebook, YouTube. We do Facebook Live with every recording. So if you get the notification on Facebook, make sure to click on it and check us out live. And thanks for watching.
Yeah, some exciting guests coming up too. Samuel Bede.
Yes.
Tomorrow on live on Facebook.
Yeah, that's going to be a great episode because he has the Guinness World Book of Records for the most comedic performances in a row at 1,001. So really, really impressive. That's going to be a good episode.
Then Monday, we got Captain Mike McCarran of the USS Hornet, former naval officer.
And that ship's out in Alameda, so that's going to be a very great episode. So for you history buffs, definitely tune in for that one.
And the Hornet's just a great tourist attraction, too. Definitely recommend getting out there to check it out if you haven't been there before.
Yeah.
Have you ever been out there?
I've never been out there.
It's been a long time since I was out there, but it's pretty cool being out there. And then lastly, on Tuesday the 28th, Jeff Rubin of the Pinole Historical Society is coming back. That's going to be an episode where we do it live that day, and it will be posted again that afternoon. So we're having a very quick turnaround.
We did the first one live too, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're all live, but this is the first time we'll go live and then post it to the podcast feed that same day.
Got it.
So we have an immediate turnaround, and that'll be part 2 where we cover more history of Pinole.
Okay, and then we have the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame. Is that confirmed?
That's confirmed. That's not until mid-September.
Kevin O'Brien?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be a fun episode too. So we have some really great guests, great episodes coming up. We are going to be posting, I believe, a highlight or a throwback clip this weekend?
Yeah, I got one already set up, and another one's going to be coming down pretty soon. So
Perfect.
look for those Saturday and Sunday. They'll be on YouTube, Facebook, iTunes, all that stuff.
Yeah, we've noticed a bit of a spike in listeners to the podcast. So again, thank you to everyone who's been paying attention, either watching or listening to the audio version. For the audio podcast, we're going to be doing some short clips, some short throwback clips, feature clips, highlight reels that I think you guys will really love. We've gotten a lot of feedback that some of you have wanted some shorter clips, and so we're going to mix these long-form podcasts with shorter-form podcasts. So I hope you enjoy. Any feedback on the podcast, please send it our way to either Sam or myself. Would love to hear from you guys. And again, thanks for watching. I really want to thank all of you for listening. It means the world to me, and I hope today's episode provides you value in your day-to-day life. I created this podcast to help showcase the many great people that live in this world and help share some knowledge that I've learned along the way in life. Again, thank you for listening. Check out our sponsors, and I'll catch you on the next episode.